5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to your Media Mosh podcast. I'm your host, Shane Beauregard, coming at you with all your news, reviews, and previews. I want to watch on your streaming services, your television, and your local theater. I hope everyone's had a great week. Coming at you Sunday night, August the 18th. And this week went sideways, folks. I had big plans at the movies this week, but you never know when parenthood is going to pop up and you need to do some adulting. Long story short, I was on a pretty good roll at the beginning of this week. And Wednesday night, my son mangled his arm jumping off his swing set. And to say it was a bad break is putting it mildly. So when he came through the door and showed me his arm, which was hanging and shaped like an S, I wanted to freak out and almost wanted to pass out. But I had to throw him in the car, do about 90 to the emergency room, and 5 hours later, he's in a cast. And he's a trooper, that's what I'll say for him. Didn't cry, I cried when he initially did it, but after that, he was a champ. Because if it was my daughter, she would have been, oh my God, I don't even want to imagine if she did it. Because she can't even take a needle at the doctor's for a shot. But yeah, so that threw pretty much my weekend plans into disarray. And this week my VP is gone for the entire week. She's in New York, Massachusetts, and she'll be in Connecticut, which I'm jealous because she's gonna be eating some good fucking pizza while she's there. Yeah, so I'm here all week. So let's get into the little bit of news that I wrote down before things got turned upside down. Natasha Lyonne, the star from the Netflix series Russian Doll, has confirmed that Season 3 will be the last season of it. So Season 2 hasn't even come out yet, and I don't have a release date for that, but she did say the story will conclude after Season 3. Disney's already working on an Aladdin 2 script, which that one's kind of surprising to me because it was okay. I actually watched it with my kids. It was okay. It was better than I thought. The Will Smith genie did not bother me at all. Still inferior to the animated film. So out of all that gets greenlit a sequel, I'm kind of surprised it's Aladdin 2. But anyway, the trailer for The Last Christmas with the Mother of Dragons from Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke, her new movie or next project coming off of Game of Thrones. It's a romantic comedy. It looks pretty bad. It does not look good. And then the latest is Kevin Smith has confirmed that he's going to be reviving the He-Man series, and apparently the storylines pick up right where the 80s storylines left, which, God, I can't tell you the last time I saw He-Man. But it is in the hands of Netflix, so we'll see what direction they're going to go with it. I don't think they're going to take the She-Ra route on it. At least I hope they don't, because the stylistic change they made for She-Ra from DreamWorks, I actually liked it, but I don't think the same would be said for He-Man. So we'll see. But he's been announcing that for the past 2 days on every kind of social media platform. You know how Kevin Smith is. Yeah, and that's all the news I have for you. Let's get into the box office. Coming in at number 5, Scary Stories, bringing in $10 million, which brings its 2-week run to 40. And that was made on a budget of $25 million, so made its money back. Angry Birds, first week of release, $10.5 million on a $65 million budget. Not looking good there. 5th week in release, The Lion King is at number 3, bringing in $11 million, which brings its 5-week total to $496 million. Number 2 is The Sinking Hobbs and Shaw, bringing in $14 million, which it hasn't even grossed $150 yet on its $200 million budget. And The Good Boys comes in at number 1, bringing in $21 million on a $15 million budget. So good job there. 47 meters down, Uncaged finishes number 6, bringing in $9 million, which isn't bad on its $12 million budget. And Blinded by the Light, the Bruce Springsteen movie, came in 9th with a $6 million taken over the weekend. So that is your weekend wrap up. Next week is a pretty light week. You have the Gerard Butler finishing his Fallen trilogy. And this one is Angel Has Fallen. I think the first one was Olympus Has Fallen, which was a pretty solid action film. I didn't bother with the London Has Fallen bit, so it looks okay. I'm not going to see it. I do want to see Ready or Not, so go check that trailer out. It has the chick that looks like Margot Robbie. I always get him confused, but she was in The Babysitter. She's getting married to some guy, and their family at midnight starts hunting her down, playing a game of hide and seek. The movie is right up my alley, so that is my watch of the week. Hopefully, we'll see. And hopefully everyone watched I Am Patrick Swayze over the weekend, which he passed away 10 years ago at the age of 57. Which August 18th is a pretty solid fucking birthday, man. Like, mine's tomorrow, the 19th. So the 18th, you have Edward Norton turns 50, Robert Redford's 88. Well, Patrick Swayze would have been 67, and Christian Slater, one of my favorites, is 50. On the other hand, I have John Stamos and Kira Sedgwick, born on the 19th. Yeah, that's about it. So, I Am Patrick Swayze. Great documentary that was on Paramount. Patrick Swayze is one of the only actors I can think of, to be honest with you, that has done iconic roles that hit the taste buds for both genders. He'll forever be known to me for two roles: Dirty Dancing, which is one of the more popular chick flicks in history, and then for the male testosterone group out there, you have Roadhouse. So he was able to go right down the middle with those two. And, yeah, I mean, I was a fan of Patrick Swayze. Who wasn't? So, again, everyone knows him from those two movies. So here are some, I don't want to say under-the-radar Patrick Swayze movies, but they're probably lesser known. Number one is Youngblood, 1986, with Rob Lowe. The very cute Cynthia Gibb in The Discount, Craig T. Nelson, and Ed Lauder. It follows Rob Lowe. He signs this big hockey contract. He moves from his farm. Patrick Swayze's the veteran on the team. Pretty much teaches Rob Lowe the ropes and how to fight and yada yada. But for a sports movie, it was a solid 80s sports movie. Had all the cheese necessary for nice viewing. Next on the list is 2009. This is actually his last movie he did, called Powder Blue, with Jessica Biel, Eddie Redmayne, Forrest Whitaker, Ray Liotta, Lisa Kudrow, and Chris Christopherson. And this is one of those movies. There was I like to say like a 5-year time period where you had a lot of movies that followed 4 or 5 to 6 strangers, and their lives all intersected at one moment during the day, and they show how they all interconnect with each other. This is one of those movies. They follow 4 characters around on this one night in New York, and they all come to a head at this little diner. But it was it's a watchable movie. I wouldn't say it's great, but just to give you something off the beaten path for Patrick Swayze, and the cast alone is it's a really solid cast. The last one you should check out is Next of Kin, 1989. He plays a Chicago cop his brother gets killed, and he's tracking him down. He's from Kentucky, so his hillbilly brother, played by Liam Neeson, who has his own tactics on tracking people down the old Southern way. And so it's an action movie. If you want to hear Liam Neeson attempt a really, really bad Kentucky Southern accent, watch this fucking movie. Not only that, it stars Bill Paxton, and who doesn't like a Bill Paxton movie? A very young Helen Hunt, and a very young Ben Stiller. So, pretty solid cast, good action movie. Go check those out if you are feeling in the mood to watch something Patrick Swayze. Youngblood, Next of Kin, and Powder Blue. So, it's a pretty light week on Netflix this week. Nothing notable is coming out on Netflix this week. They do have a lot of originals that are dropping, but none that I recognized. So I'll give you more information next week if I make note of any solid original shows or movies that they put out next week. So in the meantime, what I'm telling you is go get caught up on Mindhunter Season 2. And you can thank me later. That is a great show. The Righteous Gemstones premieres tonight on HBO. I do not have HBO, so if I ever get a free trial, I do want to see this show. It's about it's about an evangelical family. So think Joel Osment, and the head of the family is played by John Goodman, and you have Danny McBride and Adam Levine. So I looked at the trailer. It looks hysterical. I love Danny McBride. I love John Goodman. And I like Levine as well. Just not as much as the other two. I do want to see that. If you have HBO, it's coming out tonight. And then on Amazon Prime, if you're into stand-up, Jim Gaffigan has a new special out called Quality Time. I did watch that this weekend, and it's standard Jim Gaffigan. That's a really solid outing for him. What I learned about him, which kind of blew me away, is he was the third grossest stand-up comedian last year. I think they said he totaled $30 million. Basically for backing out of his deal with Netflix. And he signed a new deal with a independent production company. So now he puts his shows out everywhere but Netflix. So I don't know the ins and outs of the business, but he said he makes more on the back end than he does on the front. So good for him. Because that dude grinds it out, man. He's been grinding it out for a long time. And so if you want a good laugh, go check out Quality Time by Jim Gaffigan on Amazon Prime right now. Also, on the 21st, A Simple Favor comes out. Now, sometimes they trick you because they say Amazon Prime. When you go to it, they make you rent it. It said Amazon Prime, so if you get there and they make you have to pay for it, don't blame me. Blame whoever's putting this out, other than me. Alright, so that is really it, folks. Let me get into my 2 movie reviews before... Again, I was on a fucking roll before Wednesday night happened. So let's get into the first movie I found. Both these movies are on Amazon Prime, by the way. The first one is called A Vigilante, starring Olivia Wilde, and is sitting at 91% critic score with a 51% audience score. Directed by first-time director Sarah Dagger Nixon. And I don't know why I clicked on it. I think the cover, basically the cover got me. I was like, all right. The description sucked me in, and the first scene really sucked me in. Olivia Wilde plays a domestic abuse victim who's been beaten over the years by her husband, but now she helps other domestic abuse victims get out of their situation. So the first scene sets you up. She arrives at this guy's house. The man, he does 3 things and then basically sets the wife free from the husband. Pretty good. So it gets you right in there. So she's basically, like the title says, she's a vigilante. I will say it's a slow-paced movie, but what a performance by Olivia Wilde. I've only kind of known her from romantic comedies or just really silly films. You feel her character. Character is very emotional. She suffers from PTSD, and it comes out in this performance. It is very grounded and very believable. How her performance in this movie is not talked about more is really beyond me. So in between her helping people, they show her in support groups. And another thing, I couldn't tell if these were actors or actually domestic abuse survivors. So you get a feel of what world they live in, and it kind of shines light to the subject of domestic abuse. Now, you do have her husband still evading police arrest, so he's in the background, and she's trying to track him down so she can bring closure to her situation. So you do get some violent scenes, you get some very tense scenes, but again, I love the way this movie's shot. It's kind of a darker toned movie, using a lot of natural light. Not a lot of dialogue at all. The only negative, I guess I will say, is that it is a little slow in the middle, and the end is kind of predictable, but I still loved it. I loved the ride there. I loved just the tortured, emotionally, physically beat woman she was. And she comes across 100%. And the first film that popped up in my head was that stupid fucking Jennifer Lopez movie, Enough. Yeah, I didn't buy that. I'm sorry. I didn't buy her. This is a far superior movie. Even Jodie Foster had a movie similar to this, and I forget the name of it right now, but I believe it was her and Terrence Howard was in it. It's probably about 10 years old as well. Go check this movie out. And I'm going to keep an eye on this director, Sarah Dagger, because the way she directed this film, you felt it, and very grounded, and I just love some of her shots in this movie. So I don't know what the audience, maybe because it was really slow paced and it has some action. I wouldn't even say action scenes. There's some scenes of violence in here, but they're spread out. And what I liked about it, she not only helps women get out of the situation. There's a scene in here where she rescues two boys from an abusive drunk mother. So they show both sides of the coin, which I really appreciated. So this movie came out in 2000. It's IMDb listed as 2019. Again, I don't know where this movie fell through the cracks. If I saw it in the theater, I would have been happy, to be honest with you. So, if you want to see a good performance by Olivia Wilde, go check out A Vigilante on Amazon Prime. I agree with the critics on this one. I'm going to give it a 4.0 out of 5 for me. And I kind of have a newfound respect for Olivia Wilde in this role. So I'd like to see her do more stuff that she can show some range on. So that's movie one. My next movie is the Mads Mikkelsen Arctic, which is sitting at 88% critic score with a 79% audience score. And we've all seen this movie 10,000 times. Mads Mikkelsen plays a pilot who gets his plane crashed somewhere in the Arctic. We don't know how it crashed, how long he's been there. We don't know his mission. So the first shot of him is going through his day-to-day, trying to get rescued. So we don't even know how long he's been there. As this movie progresses, there is an attempt to rescue him by a helicopter crew. The helicopter goes down, and he has to then make a decision, stay pat, or take the survivor from the helicopter crash and try to get rescued. Try to get out of where he's at to go get rescued. So he makes the decision to leave his camp. And that is pretty much the crux of the movie. But it is a survivalist movie, so if you're into those, you would like this one. Again, it hit every trope. You have your bear attack. You have, your almost dying situations. Anything you've seen stranded in the snow, you'll see in this movie. But what makes this movie watchable is Mads Mikkelsen. He has maybe 4 or 5 lines of dialogue. He is one of the few actors that honestly doesn't need any dialogue to make a movie work. And I can't say that for many actors because he's done two of these movies now. Arctic and the very shitty Valhalla Rising by Nicholas Winding Refn. Go fuck yourself. I think I don't even know if he had any dialogue in that fucking movie. Don't ever watch that, by the way. And I'm not going to talk about it more. But anyway, so he carried 2 movies. And if you combine those movies, he maybe had 6 lines of dialogue. But he's still fascinating enough to watch. So that's what made the movie for me. It's an hour and a half runtime. The cinematography was great. The runtime is an hour and a half. And it felt a little longer. That's probably the only negative I have on it. Other than that, just a solid performance, well directed. I'm going to agree with the critics as well. I'm going to go ahead. Now, I'm not going to give it a high score like I did A Vigilante. So I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5. Again, just based on the acting, the directing. I wouldn't say writing because there's no dialogue, but 3.75 out of 5 for me on Arctic. Those are my 2 picks of the week. And that's all I watched this week, folks. Again, I was going to do a Where Are They Now segment on The Breakfast Club, which coincidentally was on TV this past Friday, and I ended up watching it. I'm almost done with writing that up, but I was thinking, because it's been a while since I've seen that movie, and it still holds up for the most part. And I don't know why I thought this, but here's a question of the week. Who had the better dance-off question here? Who had the better dance scene? Emilio Estevez in the library after he got high, or Kevin Bacon in the barn for Footloose? Close. I'm going to give the edge to Emilio Estevez. That scene, for whatever reason, had me fucking dying on how bad it was. But the way he worked that library, I'm going Emilio. And that's it, folks. I'll have more of The Breakfast Club next week, and who knows what else I'll get into. But go check me out on the Facebook page, Media Mosh. Go check me out on the Twitterverse at Shane Media Mosh, and Instagram as well. If you want to see a picture of my kid's S curved arm, go to my Instagram page. Other than that, go back to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. 3 different platforms for 3 different types of content. Mr. Org myself, Chris Frodell. And I hope everyone has a great week. Get caught up. Get caught up in the mosh.